Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, tonight I'm out here in the garage doing some basic knife maintenance because my wife's shows are on and I was banished to the garage. Anyone who has a wife who watches shows that they're not interested in knows that the last thing you do while your wife is watching her shows is talk. So to alleviate any issues, I was told to go to the garage, which is fine. I had some things I needed to take care of out here anyways. But the main thing I want to do, I want to talk about a subject I had an individual ask me the other day that struck me odd. This individual was talking to me. We were talking about camping and hiking and all that kind of stuff. And he asked me, he goes, "Do you carry a firearm with you when you go to the woods?" And it just struck me odd. Me, being someone who always has for the most part, found it odd to have an outdoorsman ask that question. And I've been thinking about that a lot since he mentioned it. First of all, everyone knows the last thing you want to do is ask a police officer or anyone in law enforcement what they think about firearms. Every police officer I know wants more. But that being said, he asked me if I did, and I told him that I did most of the time, depending on what I was doing, where I was going, time of year, and all that stuff. And he sat there for a second, then he asked me another interesting question. One that I'd never really thought of. And I guess it's because I've never really had anybody ask me this question. The question he asked me was why? Why do you carry a firearm with you when you go to the woods? For me, that was pretty easy. I grew up working with beef and dairy, hunting, so forth and so on. And I've seen the damage that coyotes can do to an animal. And I actually had a friend who was attacked by a coyote one year that had rabies. So because of that, that's always been kind of a no-brainer to me as far as carrying a firearm when I go to the woods. But I'd never had anybody ask me why I carried one. So we went on talking about it, and I went over the whole story about my buddy getting attacked by a coyote, and told him about the time that I had a skunk with rabies chase me, and the time I had a couple of raccoons with distemper chase me, and stuff like that. And told him that was pretty much the main reason I carried one, is because, as my dad always put it, it's always better to have it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. And then you get into the other aspects of, well, I'm going out, I may have to be out there longer than I originally intended. may have to use it to secure food or whatever. I've even had one guy tell me he carried one with him for a signaling device. That way, if he got hurt, he could let somebody know where he was at. And all of those are good reasons. And you could probably fill up a back of a pickup truck with all the different reasons that people would give you for carrying a firearm in the woods. But I just never had anybody ask me why. And the more I thought about that, the more interesting the concept of it became to me. So I decided I wanted to discuss it. I'm sure everybody and their brother's got their own reasons, and I'll probably get all kinds of comments as to why, which is fine. I'm kind of curious to hear some of the reasons. But after we talked about that for a little while, he asked me another question. He goes, well, if I'm going to carry a firearm in the woods, what kind should I carry? And I pretty much just told him, I said, the one you're comfortable with. And he kind of looked at me funny. And I told him that no one firearm will serve every purpose. I said, there's so much to take into consideration when it comes to a firearm for the outdoors. And I'm not talking hunting. I'm just talking hiking, camping, that kind of stuff. Fishing, whatever. Excuse me. But there's so many firearms out there, and everybody has their personal preference. Me, I'm more comfortable with a rifle or a handgun. I will tell you right now, I can't hit a bull in the ass with a shotgun. If he's moving, you just will forget about me shooting at him with a shotgun and hitting him. My buddies used to make fun of me before. That's how bad it was. I had one buddy that shot skeet and stuff and told me that I was the only person he'd ever seen that couldn't hit anything with a shotgun. Give me a .22 rifle, it's a whole different ballgame. And a lot of that has to do with the way I was raised. My father would take me out squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, give me a single shot .22 rifle and about a dozen .22 shells, and tell me when my ammo was gone, I was done hunting. And once I was out of ammo, I would carry his gun, my gun, and anything that he continued to shoot. He would also, well, since you ain't got any ammo, he said, I guess you can play dog, wade that brush pile and see what you can run out of it. So I learned rather early to make my shots count and to not run out of ammo. But that being said, when it comes to an outdoor firearm, there's so many things that have to be taken into consideration. If you're going to Alaska and you may be encountering moose, brown bear, something like that, you probably don't want to go with a .22 rifle. That being said, if you're going to the eastern woodlands here in Kentucky, and the biggest thing you may have to encounter is a coyote, you could probably get by with a 22 rifle or a 20 gauge shotgun. I have carried a rifle to the woods and never used it more times than I've ever carried one to the woods and needed it. And there have been times that I've went to the woods and never took a firearm and never needed it. The concept of a firearm right now, talking about any use of one, is such a touchy subject in this country. And it's with good reason, I guess. But they do serve legitimate purposes. But if I could say anything at all about a firearm's use in the woods, especially from an outdoor use other than hunting, make sure whatever you take is capable of dealing with any threat that you may encounter, that you're competent on the use and confident in your abilities with it. Because if you can't use it confidently, then it defeats the purpose of having it, if that makes sense. I'm not going to sit and beat this horse over and over and over again. It comes down to personal preference, whatever that may be. Some people may be perfectly content with a small 22 pistol. But then again, you may have someone who won't go into the woods without a 45-70 lever action. And to each their own. The most important thing is to make sure that it's capable of fulfilling the needs that you may require of it. Like I said, you wouldn't want to go into the Alaskan bush with a 22 rifle and have an encounter with a brown bear. Just like you wouldn't want to go into the hills of eastern Kentucky here or central Kentucky and find yourself having to harvest food to survive and be out there trying to kill rabbits and squirrels with a 45-70. So there's so many things to take into consideration. I wasn't trying to sway anyone or accomplish anything. I just wanted to talk about this because I found it interesting to be asked that question. I hope y'all found this interesting. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you again soon. Y'all have a good night.